Welcome to Win the City Wisdom, produced by New Acropolis on CAN-TV 21. New Acropolis is a school of living philosophy that is connected to life. It is also a center for culture and volunteering. My name is Yadira, and I'm a student and volunteer at New Acropolis. And here with me is Gilad Sommer, director and teacher at the New Acropolis School in Chicago. Thank you for joining us today. Let's dive in, Gilad. So what can you tell us about New Acropolis? What is it?
Thank you, Yadira. Like you said, New Acropolis is a school of living philosophy. It's a school and it's also a community. And we have people there who are seekers of wisdom, people who are interested in knowing more about themselves, about the world, about ancient cultures, about the wisdom of ancient cultures. And what we do is that we meet, we have classes, we have events. Yadira, you've been in the school for a while, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what we do in the school.
Yeah, in the school, we study philosophy from different cultures. For example, we talk about Buddhism, Hinduism, Stoicism. We learn about the teachings of Confucius. But more importantly is how we apply these teachings into an inner growth. Mm-hmm. And it's not only about the classes, it's also about the classmates, the gatherings, the eating together.
Right.
So it's also about being part of this community of philosophers.
Right. Sometimes from the conversations we have during dinner, we get to more interesting ideas and more interesting insights than the classes themselves. Because really, philosophy is about life.
Yes.
You know, Yadira, sometimes people have this kind of concept of philosophy. When they think about philosophy, they think about sometimes these heavy books, these boring lectures.
I was one of them.
You were one of them. I was one of them before I came to New Acropolis. So, and philosophy is something very different than that. Philosophy is really the love of wisdom. That's actually the origin of the word philosophy. Mm-hmm. Philos means love, and Sophia means wisdom. And like Socrates, the famous philosopher, said, the only thing I know is that I don't know. And we philosophers, or people who want to be philosophers, we recognize that there is wisdom. There is knowledge that we don't know and that we want to know. We want to get closer to wisdom.
So as you can see in New Acropolis, we are much more than your average high school class. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us why it's important to study philosophy nowadays and why to have a school of philosophy?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, you know, all of us have questions about life. Deep questions. We want to understand the meaning of life. We want to understand why we are here. Or even, you know, much simpler questions like, why is this happening to me? And we have these questions, but not always do we have the place or the people we can sort of talk with about these questions. We don't have the opportunity to investigate these questions. And a lot of times people tell me when they start talking about these things with their friends, with their family, that people tell them, oh, don't be so heavy. It's just, you know, don't complicate things. But some people really have deep questions about life. And throughout history, philosophy schools were exactly the place where you would come to discuss these questions. And unfortunately, we don't have these kind of philosophy schools. Well, we do have one, which is New Acropolis.
Yes.
And it gives people this opportunity to investigate these very important questions.
Yeah, so in my experience, so I used to, when I think about philosophy or when philosophy classes at school, I used to think, you know, that these classes were boring. Or I used to think about men wearing robes,
togas,
talking about boring stuff, and nothing that really I could relate to them when I was in high school. So it was very hard for me, the class, because I thought the ideas were very complex, and the teachings weren't reachable for me.
Right, they didn't connect to life.
Yes. So at New Acropolis, what we do is I find it that the teachings doesn't stay they do not state on the books.
Right.
So it's a living philosophy.
Right. You told me an example. Yadira told me an example when she was in traffic
Yeah.
a while ago, and she was thinking about somebody cut you off, and you were thinking about something by Marcus Aurelius, right? The famous Stoic. You want to share that?
What teachers would help me in this particular time? So I remember one of Marcus Aurelius that he said about, if you see something wrong, to think about, do I have that within myself? And it was very interesting because it changed my attitude towards that person.
Right. That's a great teaching. I mean, we always tend to look for criticism. We criticize the people around us. We criticize people for their shortcomings. But Marcus Aurelius tells us, hey, maybe you have that shortcoming also. Look inside. And there's another part for that, to that saying by Marcus Aurelius, because he also tells us, yes, if you see someone doing something negative, look inside of yourself.
Yes.
Do I have it inside of myself? But also, if you look at someone and they're doing something positive, and so instead of envy, instead of jealousy, try and see if you can aspire to become like that. So it's both ways.
And like you said, you wouldn't think, at least I wasn't thinking like that philosophy could help me in my day-to-day life. So that's what I like about New Acropolis, that the teachings are very much alive.
Right, right. Our brand of philosophy is about connecting philosophy to everyday life, and really the perception that people have often about philosophy as this something that is detached, that doesn't have, it could be interesting ideas, all kinds of interesting reflections or ideas. Maybe we are in a simulation, or maybe this or maybe that. But often there is actually no connection to, okay, what is this? How is this related to my problems in my marriage, or the fact that I want to improve my relationships, or how do I get a better job, or a job that is better for who I am, and so on and so on. But philosophy has to be connected to these questions. It is connected to these questions. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the show we're planning to do, we talk about different cultures, but also how those ideas could help you in your life. How can you explain more about how we're going to do this?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we're going to use a lot of pop culture references.
Yes.
So we don't realize it, but actually philosophy is in everything. Philosophy is in movies, it's in music, it's in books, it's in everything that we see around us. And we're going to try and bring some of these, let's say, pop culture references to this show to see how we can find wisdom in those things that we usually don't notice that there's wisdom there.
Movies that new movies, old movies, classical movies, that we are trying to see them through a different lens, right? With the philosophy perspective.
Right. And all with the aim of making philosophy accessible, eye level, to show that these ideas are all around us. And really the purpose is that you in the audience could take something from the show, could watch these 25 minutes and at the end of the show say, oh wow, that was an interesting idea. I can take it and maybe try to apply it in my everyday life to see if it makes it better. Of course, you're always invited as well to our live conferences and our in-person events, and we'll tell you more about them when they happen.
Yeah, so the purpose is we're going to talk about current topics from a philosophical perspective, how philosophy can help you with decision making, living a meaningful life. We're going to talk about self-examination, not only blaming the others for our problems. It's
Exactly.
hard work.
Yeah.
It implies effort. It implies self-reflection, to practice critical thinking, to bring more harmony into our relationships, and also how each of us can help this world to make a better world. It might sound cheesy or like the world peace,
Yes.
but it's real.
Yeah, I do think that philosophy can help us maybe not bring world peace, but can help us bring more peace into our lives. Yeah, because change starts from the individual. That's another reason that School of Philosophy is so important today. We know, we look around, we know that society today is not in a great place. There are a lot of polarization, a lot of conflict, a lot of misunderstanding. But how are we going to change that? Well, some people, they're going to protest, and some people do take extreme measures, even violent measures. We say, let's start with changing the individual. If each one of us could make a change in ourselves, could improve ourselves, give a better example. So if I want, less polarization, let me start by having conversations with people I don't necessarily agree with, or being open-minded at least. And if I want more compassion, then let me be a little bit more compassionate in my everyday life. Not to strangers. Let me start with being more compassionate to my partner.
Even to myself.
To myself, right? Even to myself. My family, my coworkers. So we believe that by making these individual transformation, individual change, we can actually affect society. And I've seen it in action. Right?
So as you can see, our goal is ambitious, but very, very doable. So our purpose is to awaken the philosopher in you. And we have a blueprint to do that.
And you don't need a degree. You don't need a certificate. There is no, you don't need to have some kind of special IQ or whatever. Really, everyone can be a philosopher if they want to, because you just need to have curiosity and open-mindedness, to be interested in the world around you. It's not, the goal is also not really to get some kind of official degree or something like that, right?
Yes. Another point is that we've read, we all are aware that a lot of people in society is feeling alone. So we like to think also that when you study philosophy, you don't feel that loneliness, because every challenge you encounter, is like having the Buddha whispering in your ear. So we like to do that, so you can feel accompanied to live your life with the teachings of these ancient, great-minded philosophers.
Right. I love this idea, because it's almost like you're never alone. Always, all of humanity, all of the wisdom of humanity, the great philosophers are always with you wherever you are. So like you said with Marcus Aurelius, you're in traffic and suddenly Marcus Aurelius comes and gives you an advice about how to handle the situation. And we also have an actual community of philosophers where you can connect to and also not be alone in the very concrete sense.
Yeah, you could think, what would Plato do, right?
Right, what Plato do, right, exactly.
And you don't have to do anything or need anything special to be a philosopher, because the purpose is not to get a degree, but to really live better.
Right, to live better.
To live better. And the philosophical ideas that we study in New Acropolis are transferable.
Right.
To your life.
Right. So this is the whole point. It's not about, you don't need to go to a retreat. You don't need to leave your life, to stop working, to quit your job, whatever. Every teaching that we learn, that can be applied in your life today to make it better. Right. One of the things that I find with philosophy, that maybe it doesn't teach you how to get the promotion, right? Or maybe it doesn't improve your resume, because I don't think putting philosophy in your resume is going to make you get the next job. But I think that philosophy makes you, or helps you become more authentic. And when you're more authentic, when you are more aligned with who you truly are, then everything else in your life sort of arrange or goes into place, because suddenly your relationships are more aligned with who you are more meaningful, and your workplace is more aligned with what you're looking to do in life, and you're not just doing something, just because
Because society
Right.
tells you to do it. Like nowadays also we have this, or we are very stressed about success, right?
Right.
And one of the teachings that we study in Hinduism, it's like you shouldn't have to be, success is not about external things. It's about also, you can focus on the actions, whether only on the results of those actions.
Right, you're talking about karma yoga. It's a very interesting concept from Hinduism where you're focusing on doing the right action, and whatever the fruits or the results that come, that is not up to you, but you're trying to do whatever is right in life, taking the right action. That's a great idea. You know, a question that people often ask us is whether we are political, whether we are a religious organization. And it's very important for me to say that we are not. We are absolutely not. So we have schools all over the world in countries with different languages, different religions, different ethnicities, all walks of life. So we are universal. We want to give the chance for every person around the world to practice philosophy. So we can't subscribe to a specific political opinion or a specific religion. And we come from all walks of life. So, for example, I'm Jewish. I'm originally from Israel. I'm a man. And Yadira?
I'm from Mexico, raised Catholic. In the New Acropolis, we can coexist with no problem.
There is no problem, right? Because it doesn't matter that we have, different backgrounds, right? It's
because the teachings are universal. These ideas that they were thought more than 20,000 years ago, they are still relevant, and they can, help us to be together, to find a solution of the problems that are very modern, with ideas that they were thought 20,000 years ago.
Yeah, I find it actually amazing because, I have the book of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations next to my bed, and I open it once in a while and I read something from that, and it's pretty amazing because this person lived about 2,000 years ago. He was a Roman emperor. What does he have to do with me? We don't.
Yes.
We're not. I'm not an emperor. I'm not Roman. Yeah. So what does he have to do with me? But something, the teachings, his teachings, because they're universal, because they touch the core of the human being, the most deepest part of the human being, they become universal. They become something that is relevant for each human being, for each individual, whether they live in Rome, ancient Rome, or in modern the United States. And I think that's pretty amazing. And this is true for all these ancient teachings that we study in our school, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita from Hinduism that you mentioned, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's the teachings, the philosophy of ancient Egypt, or, every this kind of universal teachings that we find in movies and in books and so on.
Another question that we get in our introductory class is that people get there and they are kind of disappointed of the world, right? And they say it's a chaotic time to live. How can we incorporate philosophy and make our life not easier, but that it's worth trying?
Yeah.
And what teachings would you say?
I wouldn't say that philosophy necessarily makes your life easier. I know I'm not a good salesman because, salesmen, they say they want to tell you that things is going to be easier.
No effort.
No effort. No, philosophy actually does require effort because, the easiest thing is not to think. The easiest thing is just to
go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Follow that person, Instagram.
Exactly. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, just to spend our days wasting time, browsing and just passing the time, killing the time, as we say today, which is weird, right? Because time is our most precious resource, and for some reason we want to kill it, which is strange. But the easiest thing is not to think. But we say, no, let's make an effort. Let's put more attention, more consciousness to everything that we do. So that we can improve ourselves. And again, I'm going back to that idea that we cannot change the world. I cannot go in tomorrow and change the world, the whole globe. What I can do is I can change one person at a time, starting with myself.
Yes.
I've been teaching at New Acropolis for almost 20 years. And I've seen that. I've seen that people take these teachings, integrate them, try to apply them, and slowly they sort of improve themselves, become a better human being, and that affects their relationships, their families. One of the members in the school told me recently, my mother told me that I'm more open-minded than I used to be. Yeah, which was very interesting. She didn't know a lot about philosophy, but she noticed that change in that person. And I think that's how we make change. I know that it's a slow change. I know that it's not an easy change. We want to make big changes. We want to change the world dramatically.
Something to post in social media, right?
Or something that we can post on social media, right? We want something that immediately everybody can see, yeah?
Yes, yes.
That looks good.
Yeah.
But if we're looking for actual changes and not just changes that look good, that requires some work on our side, some work on our end, and I feel that's actually hopeful, because when we think, oh, whoa, the world is sinking and it's being destroyed, and there's so much chaos and polarization and political problems, and what can I do? I'm at home. I don't have the power to change all of that.
It's very difficult right now to distinguish true and false, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that we learn at philosophy school is discernment. So, and you have your base of the teachings to guide you through this process, this chaos that is right now.
You have the teachings, and you have companions. You have people who study with you. You have teachers. We have teachers in the school. So it's very easy to sink into a bubble, into our own bubble when we're alone at home, browsing through the Twitter feed or the TikTok feed, and we start to build this image of the world.
Yeah.
Especially if you're alone and you're not in touch, or you don't have conversations with other people, then you get lost in this bubble. But if you have other people, like I mentioned before, other people who look for wisdom, other like-minded people, and you have conversations, and it helps you also to develop that discernment you mentioned, because suddenly they give you a feedback, and you notice, oh, wait a second, maybe, suddenly we see that in the school where, as I mentioned before, we have people from different backgrounds and people from different political views.
And we want to present an option, because maybe some people get this discernment or this comfort from, their religion, their communities. But we at the Acropolis, we want you to present with this community or like-minded people that we our guide is philosophy, and to make your life easier. Not easier, but
in some way, yes, easier, but not easy. Yeah, not easy. It does require an effort, as we said, yeah. And we have the community, we have teachings of these timeless teachings that come from different traditions from the East and the West, and these are good teachings that we can apply in our everyday life.
And you're gonna learn more and more. So thank you very much for joining us today on Win the City Wisdom, Season 1, Episode 1. We hope we've given you a little bit to think about. So if you want to know more about New Acropolis and our upcoming events, check our website. It's www.nachicago.org. And you can also find us in Facebook, follow us on Instagram, YouTube at New Acropolis Chicago. Our school is located right by Irving Park Brown Line if you want to visit us. And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, some topics that you want about, please contact us at New Acro Chicago. That's NEWACRO Chicago @gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day and be in the lookout for our next episode.
Thank you.
You.